Bienvenido a Más Fuerza Los Ángeles. La versión audible. Gracias.
Bienvenidos, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Más Fuerza Los Angeles audible blogcast podcast. That's a lot. I got to figure out how to shorten that or come up with some sort of cool expression. But how are you doing? Seriously, how are you doing? How's everything? When was the last time you really heard somebody ask you that? How are you? How are you really doing? It's a good question. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because I think in the last, for some reason, I don't know if it's just me, but it seems like the last few news cycles I've come across have been had to do with the COVID fatigue. And I think we all kind of experienced that in our own way. I know myself, being in crowds makes me a little nervous. Not that I can't do it, but I feel a little edgy. So I know that's kind of something that a lot of us are going through, or even, when they talk about opening up Disneyland, all of a sudden there's people that actually feel a little panic. I have friends that they're teachers, high school teachers or middle school teachers, and a lot of them were forced back to work, and some of them weren't mentally ready for it. And one of the biggest things that had come out of their mouths were the stress level. They felt a lot of stress with being around kids that they weren't sure were vaccinated or not, so they felt a little bit in danger. And here's the thing, there's a lot of misconceptions on both sides when it comes to the vaccines. I hope everybody does their due diligence and doesn't listen to Facebook or Facebook doctors. Do your own research. Do a deep dive on vaccines and how they work, and go back 10, 15, 20 years prior to this vaccination that's going around now. I know it's unnerving. I'm a little uncomfortable, not because of the mistruths that are out there, there's conspiracies, just that I'm just not sure for my own sake. But I know I'll eventually get it. I'm gonna have to. I also work as a basketball coach, and right now I'm amongst, on any given practice, I'm amongst 10 to 15 kids. I stay covered, face coverings and all that, but still. At any given day I could be exposed, which is a little scary, because I don't know how my body will react. That's just the truth about the situation itself. But going back to what I'm talking about is the PTSD from the pandemic, from being stuck at home, doing the right thing, staying away from crowds, keeping your distance, making sure you're constantly washing your hands, and all these, I guess I would say, good habits, if you want to look at it like that, good habits that we've developed over the past year. But mentally, how are you doing? It's time to take a mental check on how you feel and how you're developing, and what you might be going through, and if you need to reach out to somebody, reach out to anybody. You can reach out to me, leave a comment in the review, or on Instagram, or direct message me, and we can have a conversation. I don't have a problem with that, but it's more of the long-term effects that we might be dealing with when it comes to that. Feeling claustrophobic, becoming an introvert, even if you weren't. I don't mind being home. I don't mind being by myself, but I do miss being around people, and but I'm not a daily guy that's got to be out doing something. I'm okay being home as well. I think I'm at the age where I like being a homebody. I really got into plants and watches and stuff that I've been collecting, so that I could come into my room and just sit still and just appreciate the life that's around me and that's growing. So but everybody has to find their outlet. Not everybody can do that. There's some people not in a situation that cannot find an outlet when their outlet was being out every day, running and gunning. You know what I mean? So again, how are you doing? How are you? How are you feeling? When it comes to mental health, on the flip side to that is, us Latinos, we hold a lot of stuff in. We develop this, I guess, resentment at times, where we don't like to express ourselves. And I fight that every day, being open about how I feel. And I know Mark Maron started his podcast because the fact that he used it as therapy, just to talk, because he was going through a lot, especially with his addictions and his drug addiction, his alcohol addiction, and it was hurting his life. And he lost his marriage over it. I think 2 marriages over it. And he used the podcast to basically vent to nobody, just so he could talk. That was his way of dealing with it, and it became in his podcast. That's how his podcast became a thing. Not that I'm trying to do that here, but that's just an example of looking for an outlet. Us Latinos, we hold a lot of stuff in, and sometimes it creates that resentment that we all feel later on towards that person or that situation. That's just a common thing with us. How many times as us males have we got into a fight or something as a kid, or got beat up or got bullied, and what are we told? Don't be a baby, don't be a chavala, man up, right? We all want our kids to be tough, and I was kind of the same way with my daughters. When they were in situations, I would tell them, fight for yourself, because they were girls. I don't want them to lose their voice in the situation they were in. But I would tell them, be tough, toughen up, be strong. Don't let anybody push you around. I think that's every parent's common goal with their children. But at one point, does become suppression. It's a thin line at times. So we hold things in, and I think during the pandemic and during the lockdown, the shutdown, a lot of that was that inner thoughts, inner resentment, created dark situations for a lot of us. I think the suicide rate went up, which I understand. I was home a lot, and it left me to my thoughts. And there was times I didn't feel good about myself, and there was times I relived situations with my kids or relationships, and it put me in a dark place. Being alone for 90%, 95% of the day, at times it could rub you the wrong way. You might have thoughts of, why am I here if nobody cares? My phone never rings. Nobody ever calls me except for my girlfriend. My daughters, they're so busy. I gotta chase them around, and at times I give up on that. And if I give up on that, they could go a week or two, and I won't hear from them. And it creates a little depression. I gotta admit, there was some times I was depressed. But it takes a whole different mentality to be able to shake that depression. Some people they give into it. Thoughts of suicide. I think I would be able to say that I think we've all had a thought at one time about ending it, right? I know I have, and I'm no stranger to those type of thoughts where the frustration or the feel of giving up was there. And again, being 365 plus days, being home, almost secluded, like I said, it creates a dark situation for a lot of us. But again, it takes a different mentality to really shrug that off. Not everybody's equipped with that at times. Not everybody's built like that, so it's real important to do a daily check-in, with your loved ones, and even yourself. Give yourself a hug. Again, being a Latino man, the machismo and all that, it's hard to admit that. It's nice to have a good cry from time to time to make you feel better. I came succumb to that feeling, so I could shake off the whatever feeling I might be having for that day, or whatever sentiments come up. And there's times that I might have myself a good cry just to feel better, and there's times that I could feel I'm feeling emotional and don't understand why, because it's an inner turmoil that a lot of us don't understand. That's why a lot of us need professional help at times to help seek out the reasons why we feel that way, right? It's tough to talk about. Me and my girlfriend, we argue about that because there's times I'm not open, and she might listen to this and be upset because I can open up over a microphone. But again, it's really, I don't know who's listening. So right now I'm talking to myself. So it might be easier for me to talk to myself out loud like this than to open up or be vulnerable. That's a very tough thing for me. That's very, very tough for a lot of Latino men. According to the National Center for Biotechnology, the information I was given, fewer than 1 in 11 Latinos will contact a mental health care specialist. How crazy is that? 1 in 11 that might seek help, right? That's terrible. Those are terrible stats. It could be, one of the reasons could be that we don't know who to contact. We don't know where to go, or we have been taught to not be emotional, not show our weakness, be strong, be warriors, right? All of that. And we could struggle. We struggle to ask for help. I think that's the sad part about all this. It's hard to ask for help. It is something that's in us, our DNA. We don't complain. We just take it and we keep moving. We're in a bad situation. We don't complain. We just put our head down and keep working, right? But is that okay? At times it can be. Don't rock the boat. Keep working. Don't make a fuss, right? That's tough. It's tough. Like I always say, we got to do better for each other. Us Latinos, we force ourselves to be strong. Not for us, but for others. But there's times that when we need somebody, we don't have anybody because we're so used to being the dependable one. We're the warrior for our family. Right? So again, how are you doing? Is everything all right? How are you feeling? That's from me to you. Okay? Keep that in mind going forward. There's always somewhere you could turn. Just gotta find it. Don't give up on it. Right? Dealing with stuff like that, it's not easy to talk about. So I think us Latinos, we don't, because it's easier not to. But our future, our kids need to depend on us, right? We got to teach them how to be a little more vulnerable for their sake. Not for us, but for their sake. Be okay to say, Dad, I'm hurting. Mom, I'm hurting. Right? Okay, let's fix it. Why? Something to think about, especially us with kids. My dad, I never seen him cry. Maybe once, twice actually. The first time was we were kids. He thought he was going to jail. and he came in and gave me and my brother a hug and started crying because he thought he was going to go away for a while for something that, a situation he wasn't guilty of. He was just helping somebody out and got caught up in something. Another time was me and him were walking in an alley to a burrito truck right there in East LA off Olympic, and him and my mom split up, and my dad found out she was seeing somebody else, and he was upset. He was trying to keep it in and couldn't. He was in that much pain and he couldn't. And started crying in front of me and saying he can't believe he still loves that B word. And I just looked at him because I wasn't used to that. I didn't know how to react. And the worst thing I could have said to him, and my regrettable statement to him was, Dad, maintain. We're in public. Because I didn't know how to react. Instead of just giving him a hug, I wish I could go back and give him a hug. Because that's what he needed. But I didn't know how to give that to him. It's terrible, isn't it? When you go back and think back to stuff like that, it's terrible. Things you could have did differently. Those are the things that haunt us. And I'm not trying to sound like a drag here, but again, we have to do better. We have to do better. That pandemic fatigue is real. I'll tell you that much. There's times that, I might be home for a few days and then finally want to get out and go grocery shopping, and then maybe grab something to eat or even go for a walk around the block, and I come home and I'm tired. I need a nap. It's not because I'm old. Just not used to regular life, daily ins and outs. It's something else. It's kind of funny. There's times that I sit back and just think, damn, am I out of shape? Which is not the case. Not all that. You know what I mean? So I get out and I go for a walk. I start jogging and trying to keep my immune system up. Because I don't want to be a statistic. So here's some information for you guys. The suicidal crisis and emotional distress hotline. So it's in the United States National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. The number is 1-800-273-TALK, 8255-TALK. Again, 1-800-273-TALK, 8255. All right. Again, I'm not being a Debbie Downer here, but we have to protect ourselves. We have to protect each other. And, if you get anything from this episode, please, hopefully it's searching for something that you might need. Even if it's just calling your mom, say, Mom, I love you. I miss you. And I'll be around soon to give you a hug. Or even hugging your neighbor. Something. Sometimes hugging yourself. Give yourself a nice, good hug. Or even a good cry. Ain't nothing wrong with that. I know it's embarrassing to think, especially for us men, to sit in a room and cry. It's kind of depressing to think about, but trust me, you'll feel better when you come out on the other side. You'll feel better. So again, how are you? How are you doing? Is everything all right? All right? We good? You sure? I don't know. We've got to be confident about it. Are you good? I hope so. So, going forward, today's episode is called Labels. Labels. And the reason why I named it Labels was because before I started the Mas Fuerza blog website, I was on Facebook or something like that, and I saw a posting on it was a Chicano Pride or something like that, and people started chiming in that wasn't a proper term for us Latinos, right? And I commented saying I call myself a Chicano. That's the way I was raised. I don't see nothing wrong with that. But whatever you call yourselves, hey, more power to you. We're still all part of the same cloth. And then somebody hit me back with don't marginalize yourself. It's a Spaniard with a Spaniard last name or something. And I just thought, what's that got to do with anything? Right? Instead of creating an argument, I just responded politely and said, hey, this is what I prefer. Whatever you call yourself, I'm okay with. So there's all kinds of terms that we look at. The new one is Latinx. That's taken a lot of heat lately. Also Chicano, Chicana, Chicanx, which is kind of tough to say. Latino, Latina, Latinx, Hispanic, which has always kind of been a dark term for a lot of people. We have there's Hispanic, Mexicano, which I think is a derivative form which brought us Chicano was Mexicano and Mexica. Those two words were kind of put together that developed Chicano. But again, you look in our history, people have different reasons why that word came about. So I kind of debated with myself on this blog, on the blog site, about the preference and the references and all that kind of stuff. Again, whatever you call yourself, I'm okay with, because we're all part of the same cloth. I support everybody on what they feel or how they call themselves. If you want to be Latinx, hey, more power to you. You want to be Chicanx, hey, I'm good with that. Just as long as that we know, hey, our roots are still the same, right? So keep that in mind. Our roots are always going to be the same, no matter what you want to call yourself. And people, there's Mexicanos and El Salvadorians and people from Honduras in the Midwest that have grown up there, and they don't have any identity, so they consider themselves white, which I think is crazy. But again, it's how they were raised. It was where they were raised, and they don't feel the connection to their Latino culture, their Latin culture, which I think is heartbreaking. But again, there's something that I think is important to a lot of us, and the acceptance of who we are, no matter what we call ourselves, right? The empathy creates care. We have empathy, we create care for each other. So that's basically the message that hopefully comes out through this blog, the Audible blog of labels. And everybody I interview, I always ask, what's your label? It's not disrespectful. It's the fact that, what do you consider yourself? What do you reference yourself? What do you respond to? What are you proud to be? Whatever you're proud to be, I'm proud of you for being that, and be the best you can be at that. Yendes Mendes? All right, so here it is. Labels, y'all. Thank you for listening. Labels, January 15th, 2021. Written by Ruben Guerrero. I am Chicano. I am Chicano? Well, I think I am. Layla had to add a question mark to the end of that statement. There was a post on a Facebook group about the Latinx community. I don't remember what the post was about, but I innocently commented, I call myself a Chicano, just a preference of mine. Then the criticism. One guy said not to pigeonhole me. My ancestors are Spaniards because of my last name. Another guy said I was confused. I reiterated that it was my preference and not a proclamation. I was a little bothered by the criticism. Then again, that's what Facebook is for, to be criticized and to be agitated by it. Then I started reading through some of these critical comments, and it made me question whether it was correct for me to call myself a Chicano, or did the term change or become politically incorrect for me to say. One of the biggest debates over the years within the Latin community in Los Angeles, which the majority of population is of Mexican descent, what is our identifying tag since it keeps changing almost every decade. I am a second or third generation Mexican American depending on my mom or dad's side of the tree. I was born in 1974, so I grew up in the era of the Chicana movement/culture. But I heard different terminology growing up, like Hispanic, Latino, Mexican, Pocho, or Cholo were the usual suspects. The terms wetback and beaner have been thrown my way, but that's a whole other story in itself. The past years have seemed a little volatile when it comes to race and culture tags. Mexicans, and this includes Mexican Americans, have had a target on our backs during the last administration due to negative stereotypes presented, or should I say, accentuated by our former President Trump. I could take this in a whole different direction, in which I'm trying to avoid, at least for now. Some of the notable terms defined by Webster's Dictionary: Chicana, an American woman or girl of Mexican descent; Chicano, an American man or boy of Mexican descent; Chicanx, binary term of Chicano and Chicano; Hispanic, of, relating to, or being of Latin American descent, and especially of Cuban and Mexican or Puerto Rican origin living in the U.S. Latino/Latina, a native or inhabitant of Latin America or Latin American origin living in the U.S. Latinx, of, relating to, or marked by a Latin American heritage, used as a gender-neutral alternative to Latino or Latina. Pocho, a term used by Mexicans to describe Chicanos and those who left Mexico. Stereotypically, Pochos speak English and lack fluency in Spanish. Among some Mexican Americans, the term was embraced to express pride in having both a Mexican and American heritage asserting their place in the diverse American culture. The use of Chicana has been traced back to the early 1960s. A chosen identity of the youth, Mexican Americans helped to assimilate into the American society in separation from the black community. Political empowerment identification stemming from the Pachucos and Zoot Suiters discrimination/riots. Some Mexican Americans chose not to use Chicano as an identifying term because they felt the word was a derivative of chicanery, which is defined as deception by artful subterfuge or sophistry, trickery. Others say the word Chicano derived from Mexica and Mexicano, aka Chicano. The use of Hispanic came into use around the 1970s and first appeared on the U.S. Census in 1980. The Hispanic term sparked conversation over whether the population should designate Latino as part of its identity. Latino was added to the census in 2000. Hispanic is an adjective, generally means anyone that speaks Spanish. Those are just a few, but how do you identify yourself? According to the books Finding Latinx by Paola Ramos, I met people along the way who identify with different labels. Some wanted to be called Latinos, others Hispanics, others wanted to be seen as indigenous people, others as white. Some wanted their nationalities to define them, while others said they want their skin color to be the first thing people thought of when they introduced themselves, and many had no idea how to refer to themselves at all. That brings up another question besides what we relate to or acknowledge. There are families in this country that don't know how to self-identify. They lack any relatability to anything of cultural value. How disturbing is that? Ignorance of not knowing or a connection to your heritage, the beauty, the splendor of our heritage that has been lost over many generations. Lack of knowledge or lack of practice had led to the disconnect. I'm guilty of this as well. Again, I'm trying to rectify this within my own family. I'm trying to close the gap. Our heritage, for a lot of us in Los Angeles, is a mere 3-hour drive to the border. The answer to this dilemma is something of an enigma. We know who we are, we know our origins. To answer what to call ourselves or what culturally relate to can be a tad bit controversial. We all do not come from the same parts of Mexico, South America, Cuba, Puerto Rico, etc. We do share similar traditions and linguistics. Is there a term that we all can agree with? Probably not. I suppose I would prefer Chicano as my pronoun. I know the elders and youth would disagree with Chicano for their own descriptions. The confidence to relate culturally to your tags should be sufficient enough. When it comes to the United States, they see white as white, black as black, and Latinos as Latino/Hispanic/Mexican American or American with Mexican/Latino descent. In the end, you define yourself proud as you can be for your family and heritage. Celebrate the way you see fit. I encourage learning of your own original heritage and traditions, learning your people's language if you missed the boat on that as a kid. We all need a little push in the right direction as it deals with part of our culture. As for what is relatable, well, we will have to respect your tag or pronoun till we all grow closer through our lineage. Labels. Very simple term. Very biased. It's like a tag on a shirt. What's your label? I'm Chicano, and I'm very proud of it. Call me Latino, call me Hispanic, whatever you want to call me. I know where my roots are. I know where I came from. I'm very proud of that. That's one thing that I think we all need to do a better job is to meet each other in that middle ground. Simple. There's no separation between any of us really. Every day we all have to go through something. How many times has a Puerto Rican been called a Mexican, or the Trump, saying that, all the Mexicans coming over the border. But I think it's something like over 70 or 80% of the people coming over the border are not even Mexican. They're from Latin America. But that's the disconnect between them and us. We know better. I'm very open to everybody's background. I'm very proud of my heritage, and I'm proud to see other people proud of their heritage. I love seeing, guys running around with the Boricua t-shirts. I think that's dope, but that's something we all have to meet in the middle, that we're all, our lineage, our heritage, our roots are very, very similar. Our Spanish is very, very similar. And I think that's where we're at. We just got to meet somewhere in the middle and be okay with it. You want to call yourself Chicanx, Latinx? Hey, I'm all good, but just understand we all come from the same roots, and I'm very down with that. All right, so that's the spiel. I had fun writing this one. Next week we'll be covering Delilah Inc. She's an artist. Very dope artist. A lot of Frida Kahlo inspiration. It's just, man, when I first came across her artwork, I was like, I was at my girlfriend's house and I was like, damn, that's dope. I got excited, and my girlfriend's aunt ended up getting a mug that she had made, and I was like so excited, and I don't even use it. I just have it on display. That's how much I appreciate her artwork. But it's if you can get a chance, read the blog about her, and get a kind of essence. She also came out in La Opinión. They did a piece on her. It was named, let me see. Okay, my Spanish is not all that great, but it's Inmigrante Mexicana crea un juego de lotería lleno de arte. Hopefully I said it right. My Spanish is not all that great. I'm one of the pochos, so I struggle with my Spanish. So if you get a chance, read the blog. It's about Letty and her company, Delilah Inc. It's a very awesome lady, Cal State alumni, Cal State LA alumnus. and just a great artist, educated Latina, educated Chicana, just a great artist. And I hope you guys get a chance to really read that and even go to her website, man, buy a few things. I mean, she's a dope artist. So again, thank you for listening. I appreciate you guys taking the time listening to this one. Hopefully, if you like it, hit that 5-star and, send it to your family and, leave a comment. I would love to read some of your comments and some of the feedback I've gotten has been pretty good. I'm getting better at this and I'm kind of tweaking some of the sounds and eventually this is going to lead to bigger and better things. But right now, this is very convenient and hopefully you appreciate it. Hopefully you got something out of this. So thank you for listening and always come back. All right. This is Ruben Guerrero. Más fuerza. Gracias.